Well, thank you all for coming out tonight. I'm excited about this topic that we're going to be discussing. I'm lifting this up so that it'll reach my face. So tonight our dinner and discussion is going to be on youth. Throughout this year we've been having a series of dinner and discussions to go along with our mission theme, Who is My Neighbor? Listening, learning, and living with our city. And we've had a lot of different ways to engage with our city and engage with this question, from going out into the community, inviting people in, and this is a great opportunity to talk about what are youth going through in our neighborhood. One of the ways that we've been thinking about this are what are the gifts, the needs, the pains, and the hopes of Durham. And so tonight what we're going to learn about is what are the gifts, the needs, the pains, and the hopes of youth in Durham. And so we have a great panel with us. We're excited to have Susan Blackmon with us, who's the program director of Yo Durham, who's a very close neighbor to us. Just upstairs from our offices is their office. And they they provide internships, and she'll be able to tell you more about it, but they provide job readiness and college readiness for youth in our community. And Jeff Conklin-Miller is the director of youth ministry initiatives at Divinity School, and he's part of our congregation, and we're very excited to have him with us tonight. And also James Yarborough, who knows probably more about youth than anybody else. He is a junior. Are you a junior, James?
Sophomore.
Sophomore at Trinity School. And we're very excited that he's joining the panel tonight, and he'll be able to tell you a little bit more about himself. So let's get started. My final introduction is Gare McCullough, who's our youth minister here at Duke Memorial, and she's going to be facilitating the panel tonight. So come on up, Gare.
I wonder if I can take that off.
Sure.
This feels like a little more than we need, but I'll use it anyway. So I wonder if we can start, and is the mic on the table working?
Yes.
It's live? All right. Why don't we start with ladies first? And Susan, would you tell us a little bit more about the work that you do with Yo Durham, and where we might have seen the youth that you see?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Yep.
Is on?
It is.
Okay.
It is.
Yep.
As introduced, my name is Susan Blackmon. I'm the program director for Yo Durham. And the YO of Yo Durham means Year of Opportunity for Durham Teens. We are sponsored by Durham Congregations in Action. And as mentioned, we have an office on the second floor here. This is the 6th year of Yo Durham, and it's primarily a career preparedness program for at-risk youth in our community. We work with high school students ages 15 to 17, and as the name indicates, we work with them for a year. The year starts in June of each year, and we work with the students for 6 weeks during summer on primarily career preparedness. We have speakers and seminars and workshops by volunteers. We also employ a couple of individuals who are high school teachers during the school year. And during the summer, we have 6 weeks of training. The students are expected to behave as if they're on a real job, get there on time, perform their activities, dress appropriately in business casual attire. So the no usual t-shirts, jeans, and sagging and tennis shoes. They have to wear like polo shirts or slacks or khakis and regular shoes. And they actually do that. We don't have much trouble with that. They perform activities related to being ready for a job, getting their resumes ready, mock interviews, knowing how to behave at work. We talk about workplace ethics. And also during this, if I get too long, tell me to hush.
You're fine. Put the microphone a little bit closer to you.
Okay, I tend to go on and on when I get started. And probably the reason for that is I used to be a teacher and a principal. So I'm used to talking and just going on and on and on. But for the summer, we also pay the students a stipend for their work during the summer. We hold 20% of their stipend back in savings for them, and we teach them financial literacy, and we help them get a bank account, those kinds of things. During the summer, like I said, it's all volunteers, so if any of you would like to volunteer to do a part of a workshop or a seminar during the summer, it's for 6 weeks every summer. After the summer, we work with them on 3 other things: mentoring, internships, and service learning. We actually start the service learning during the summer as a group. We, for example, go to the food bank or the rescue mission and volunteer. And during the school year, we also do group service learning. We have the precinct at the library for kids voting each year. We volunteer with the Salvation Army during Christmas time. We help with Youth United of Habitat for Humanity. Individually, the students are required to do 10 hours of service learning on their own choosing. We have mentors that we assign to individual students, and we're still looking for mentors. So if you know of anyone that would like to volunteer to work with a student, that would be great. And the 4th component, the internships, is really the biggest one for the program. Students work after school or Saturdays somewhere between 4 to 10 hours a week, and they are paid a stipend during the time that they work. And again, we hold 20% in savings until they finish. They've worked at places like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Measurement Incorporated, North Carolina Mutual, Duke OBGYN Research Office, the Duke Pain Management Office. We also have them at nonprofits like Durham Can and Habitat, Durham Economic Resource Center.
One World Market.
One World Market, oh yes, that's been one of our biggest ones, and we have students who work there. And they've even had times when we get a percentage of the proceeds during a specific time frame on a specific day. And the students have really enjoyed working there. So we have several employers in the community that have been really good year after year working with our students. And we have students who also work in the DCIA Yo Durham office. We have one intern there now.
Susan, how many students are involved in your program in a year?
Each year, we accept approximately 25 to 30 students. And during the course of the year, of course, we lose a couple because they move frequently. This year, we started with 30, 2 had to go to summer school, and 2 moved. So we ended up with 25 during the summer, but since then, 1 moved to Granville County, so now we have 24. After the year is up, we still work with the students on an as-needed basis as far as helping get tutors, helping with college applications and financial aid and other things. We invite them back for our seminars, because even though we work with them 6 weeks during the summer, during the school year, we have meetings at least once a month on a Saturday morning, and sometimes more than that. And we meet right here in the fellowship hall. Yesterday, no, that wasn't yesterday, Saturday, we took them to the International Festival in Raleigh, which was really an experience for them. And if you all haven't been, it was an experience for me, too. That was my first time going. It's a really great event.
It sounds like your program is doing a lot with some kids who really can benefit from it.
Yes, and I'll talk more about them probably in a minute. But
Great. Yeah, I'm going to pass it on, ask you to pass the horn on there to Jeff. Jeff, tell us about your role at Duke and what we need to know about the youth that you know about.
Well, thanks. Thanks for having me. So my name is Jeff Conklin-Miller. I'm serving as the Director of Youth Ministry Initiatives at the Divinity School, which is a position that didn't exist before I had it. So in some ways, I'm still figuring out what the work is. But in large, maybe sort of broad terms, it's to bring together what has been a long-standing initiative in the Divinity School toward working for youth, embodied in a program called the Duke Youth Academy for Christian Formation, which you'll hear me refer to as DYA. And a number of you know about that, I hope. Dr. Smith actually has long experience teaching at DYA. The Duke Youth Academy is a program that started well, this next year will be our 12th Youth Academy. So more than a decade ago, as an initiative of the Lilly Endowment to start programs in seminaries that would welcome high school youth into the context of the seminary to engage, at least in our iteration of a program, to engage in the rhythms of the practices of Christian faith. And so we think of the Duke Youth Academy, and I won't go too far about this, maybe I'll talk about this a little bit later, but in our faculty advisor who works with us, Dr. Fred Eady, will sometimes refer to the Youth Academy as the deep end of the baptismal font. It's sort of the opportunity where we bring youth together and sort of shove them in to swim in that water and of course, we try to get in there and paddle along with them for the 2 weeks that we're together. So I will say much more about the Youth Academy, I think, in a moment. But I work with the Youth Academy, an ongoing program. But now, in addition to the Youth Academy, we also started a master's program for people serving in youth ministry, which is a new program that started about 2 years ago, the Master of Arts in Christian Practice, and they're the MACP. You might very well know a student in that program who sits before you. And so this is a formation that we've offered on a part-time, or it's a full-time degree program, but in a hybrid model. So it allows in-person time at the Divinity School as well as online engagement in a cohort of students who study youth ministry. So we assume that students in this program are all youth ministers doing youth ministry in contexts, local churches oftentimes, but also ministries outside of the local church working with youth. And that degree program is integrated with the Youth Academy so that youth ministers who come to be a part of our educational process, they begin that process as a part of the actual Youth Academy experience, joining youth. So more to the point of what Garrett asked, the youth that we work with are youth who come to the Youth Academy. It's quite frankly, over the years that we've done an international gathering of youth. So we've had youth from all 50 states as well as some countries outside of the United States. A number, as you would imagine, are local in the sense that they're from the region, but often we have youth who are very local, Durham or the Triangle area, and from churches of a wide variety and tradition. We seek to be an ecumenical program, and so we welcome youth from as I just said, a wide variety of Christian traditions.
How many students in a typical year? Thank
you. So annually we welcome 45 students who are always rising juniors or rising seniors. So we work with the older end of the spectrum in high school.
Older end of the spectrum and deeper end of the baptismal font. Love it. All right, James, you've been very patient. Tell us about yourself, and some of us may not know a lot about your school, so if you'll describe Trinity to us and tell us what you are into in your youthful life.
All right, well, I'm James Yarborough, and I go to Trinity on Pickett Road in Durham. And our school is very small. We have like 140 people in the high school, and it's a Christian school. And we're small, and we come together as a group, and
Could you name all of your classmates if you saw them lined up?
No. I only have 45 people in the high school, or in my grade, and we're split up into 3 different groups, 3 different grades. And
what do you do at Trinity when you're not with your nose to the grindstone studying?
Well, we have gym time, and for lunch we go to the gym, and we play basketball and play soccer and really do anything you want to do. And we just hang out and have fun, and that's about it.
So I know about you that you're an athlete and you spend a lot of time practicing. Are there other things that occupy your time?
I'm very into sports other than basketball. I watch a lot of football and play a lot of video games and hang out with my friends, but me and my dad go to the ale house every Sunday and watch the football games, and every night we watch at home. So
it's a deep and abiding passion.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
Good.
We're very close. Yeah.
And he's here on Monday night.
Tonight,
Talk about sacrifice.
Football game tonight.
The man has priorities.
Expecting to get there on time.
All right. I'd like to move us to the questions that relate to our mission theme that we've been asking all of our panelists for our different dinners. And that, as Reynolds said earlier, is we want to look at the gifts, needs, pains, and hopes of youth in Durham. And adults, Jeff and Susan, I'd like to ask you to start with this. Would you tell us about the gifts that you see among the youth that you work with? What do they bring to the community that's unique to them as youth that we might not notice?
The students that I've met and worked with Yo Durham and some of the other programs within Durham too, I think one of the main gifts they have is that they are willing to branch out and try new things, because many times we see youth as just being, sort of self-oriented and not being all that interested in what's going on in the world or in the city. But I see them really paying attention to what the adults are doing in the neighborhood and what's going on in the nation, and they actually listen to the news and can talk intelligently about it, something that we don't think sometimes they do. And one of the biggest things that I've found with the youth that I work with is that they're really interested in helping each other and their community. When we first added the service learning component of Yo Durham, we didn't know how that would go over. But for many of them, that's their favorite part. That they really get into that and they appreciate what's being done for them, but they really like giving back to others. And for some of them, that's a new experience. They've only been used to receiving, but being on the giving end is something that they really cherish and hopefully look forward to doing for the rest of their life.
Thank you. Jeff, what about you?
We had the benefit of knowing what these questions are going to be beforehand, so I at least had a time to think a little bit about it. And the first thing I thought of was, well, to answer that question, you have to be able to talk about what a youth is. And that, of course, is a matter of some controversy, inasmuch as there are conversations among developmental psychologists and brain science kinds of folks. That's not the technical term they would use. But to try to get to the bottom of, what's a youth. And it's, at least in my mind, it's important to sort of dig into that a little bit because it comes to bear on how I would answer that question. So that some on one end of the spectrum will say that youth are adolescents, which is to say they end up on they're closer to children than they are to adults. And so as a result, they require a tremendous amount of oversight and care, and the thumb must be held close, so to speak. The helicopter of the parent must fly low and often. But there really is the other side of that argument, which suggests that we underestimate the capacity of youth, and that youth actually, and you're all familiar with stories that will come out of different cities in the United States who elect the youngest mayor of all time, a mere teenager elected to the highest office in the city. And this is newsworthy, of course, because this defies some set of expectations we have for what we think youth are supposed to be capable of. And now, of course, to sort of add to that whole conversation, there is the phenomenon of what we call extended adolescence, and the idea that adolescence now actually should be extended to somewhere like the age of 45 or so. No, I'm kidding. I'm overstating it. I think 40. But 40 at least. I think to maybe 30. But so that's a long way around to say it's kind of complicated. But my sense is, given the youth that we work with, I think year in and year out at the Youth Academy, they continue to defy our limited expectations of what they're capable of doing. And so the example for us is that I use the image of being pushed into the deep end. I mean, much of what we do when we're together in the Youth Academy is to offer youth the fullness of what the Christian faith is in its life and practice, and to say this is not translated somehow into an idiom closer to what you can understand in quote-unquote youth culture. It's not something that we're trying to create a sort of basic common denominator to sort of be attractive to the widest variety of folks in the market. We get them in a room and we put them in front of a Divinity School professor who will show up and talk theology. And we tell the faculty who come to speak, we don't wish you to hold back. We wish you to come and to do what you do and to do it in the way that you would do it, acknowledging this is a room full of high school youth, but that We want you to do the work that you do. And again, my experience at the Academy is somewhat short. I've been there a couple of years, and again, we could turn to some in the room who have more experience. My sense in 2 years is, on the first day of the Youth Academy, youth have a bit of a wide-eyed, kind of deer in the headlights look once they realize that we're not holding back. We're going to do this hard work together. But they adjust very quickly. Once they realize what's happening and what we're asking and what we're inviting them to inhabit, they step right up and right into it. And I think that if anything, coheres with the sense that we just heard, that we continually underestimate them. And that's a great gift.
So I heard Susan say that there's a willingness to engage in action in their community, and Jeff, you're saying there's a willingness to engage intellectually and spiritually with the offerings at the Youth Academy. James, is there anything that you would add that you see or that you feel youth, your peers, have to offer to the community that we may not notice, that you want to call our attention to? What are the gifts that you see among your peers?
All right, well, first off, our peers and the youth, we do a great job of serving and really getting out and helping others. And I recently, yesterday, went to Urban Ministry downtown, where we go and we prepare food and we serve to other people who come out and don't get a meal, don't get 3 meals each day. And so we prepare food and we give them and we serve it to them. And so Durham, it does a great job of doing that, of serving and really getting out. And I think it's our job as youth to do that same thing and to really do more of that and get out and serve and keep on going. That's the hope. That's my hope for the future of Durham and for the youth.
I was nodding my head when Susan was saying that it was one of the favorite things that your students do. I would say in our youth ministry here at this church, it's the easiest thing to recruit our students for as well. They like to be active and help out. James, you've got the microphone, so I'll invite you to keep it.
Okay.
Tell us about what sort of pain, we're going to move to pain now. What sort of pains do you experience most often or see among the youth that you know? What breaks your heart?
Well, I recently had a friend who died last year. His name was Blake Hubbard, and he was a close friend of mine. And after that, one of my friends, he called a bunch of us to his house. And we kind of reflected on how Blake really meant to our life, what he'd done in our life, and how it impacted us. And I was thinking about that, and what came to my mind was how he really followed God and how he really expressed the meaning of what God would want us to do in our lives. And I sat there and I cried for 2 or 3 hours, and I really thought to myself, I really need to do that. I really need to get out and help all these kids who really don't have what I have, and really help them. So,
were you and your friends, was it just you? Were there any adults with you when you were processing Blake's death?
We're not headmaster, but I don't know you would call him. He's kind of like a mentor, kind of like a counselor in our high school, and he came. And he came and just really talked to us and inspired us. And and my friend's mom came too. She was a chaperone, and we were just sad, but we really put our attention aside really to Blake, I guess, and really thought about how God, why God would really do that, would want Blake to die, and I don't really know how to put that, but we we put our attention aside and really thought what the meaning of, really thought, I don't know.
It's been less than a year since his death, is that right?
Yeah.
So if you're like most of us, making sense of that is going to take even more
It's
time.
gonna take a long time, yes.
Don't feel any pressure
Yeah.
to sum it up for us tonight. But you've experienced a very specific pain and also some community around that death.
Yeah.
Unless you have something else to add, I'll invite you to pass the baton there to Jeff. Jeff, what pains do you see most often among the youth that you interact with? What breaks your heart?
Well, it's hard not to start where James just left off. I mean, I think what you just described for us was a really most amazing context of what I maybe would describe in one form as a community, a place where you can come together with people that you love, and the people you can trust, and with difficult work to do, to ask questions, and to hope for a sign of the truth, and to hope for some measure of comfort in the midst of that. And so if I can, maybe just to sort of jump from that, I mean, I think that ties to a sense, at least that I have, that it's maybe to put it in two different ways. It's first of all the lack of life in a community, a placement in a context of people who are not just your family, but who perhaps include your family and are, of course, broader than that. That can offer, in essence, the multiple gifts that come with that kind of a life. So it's the lack thereof. I mean, the capacity of life lived outside of community. Just to pick up on work of one youth ministry practitioner, Chap Clark, wrote a book called Hurt, and Gare knows it because I asked her to read it in a class that I taught. I didn't really ask you, did I? I sort of made you read it. In essence, his argument in the book, after the tremendous amount of social research, in essence, ethnographic research, was to say our culture, by and large, has done good work abandoning youth, leaving youth to their own devices. And in essence, he sort of studies that along all sorts of axes, in school, at church, in the family system. It seemingly that to the point where some of the most motivated communities that seek to be in relationship with youth are those motivated that want to capitalize on their buying power. They're very interested in spending time with youth because they know youth have the capacity to spend money. Now, he doesn't say this explicitly, but I think one of the things that I think of again is one of the great tragedies and one of the great requirements in response is the fact that community just doesn't happen. It requires a tremendous amount of presence and patience, frankly. And it's really that last piece that I continue to come back to say, what does it mean for us to practice patience in youth ministry? Especially because most of our relationships as adults with youth are usually focused on the end. Where do we want to get out of this transaction? We want youth to have high test scores, or we want youth to succeed in the ways we hope they'll succeed. We need them to have a job, and these are important things, but they can sometimes obviate the need for simply being committed to the long haul. It takes patience and time and things that in some ways are really costly for us as adults who are in a really big hurry.
So loss of people and relationships, a lack of community or connection to a meaningful group beyond the family. Susan, what would you add to that? What sorts of pain do you see among your constituents?
I think it goes along with the title of the program I work with. I see a lack of opportunity for a lot of students, a lack of opportunity for them to develop their talents and interests, a lack of opportunity for education in many ways. Oftentimes, there are things that many youth that you all might know, things that they can take for granted. The youth that I work with don't. More and more, I see students who have no adult role model in their neighborhood or in their family, no positive one at least. Many of them are in foster care. The parent may be incarcerated or just not willing or able to take care of them. We still have a lot of grandparents raising children. With the group that I have just this year, the 25, I would say at least 23 of them are in single-parent homes, either a grandparent or parent. We have, I think, 5 that are in foster care, and that's a large percentage for 25 students. But I think the thing that breaks my heart more than anything else is I see a lack of hope within them at first. Now, with the 25 or 30 that we work with each year, that changes over time because of a lot of adults that are helpful. The mentor, the internship supervisor in many ways becomes their mentor. The people who come during the summer to do sessions, we have people from the Durham Crisis Response Center. We've had the Let's Talk sessions. All of those people really care and show to students that they're really interested in their future, and the students just latch on to it. They're almost hanging by the coattails when the person tries to leave because they are so much in need of a person that they feel really cares about them and their future. So I'm thinking that the more adults we have who are working with young people, not their own children necessarily, but with the youth of the community, it will make a big difference. Because many of the students that we've worked with over the last 6 years have no parent that's a helicopter parent. They're nowhere in sight. Many times, if the student doesn't get themselves someplace or get themselves up and ready to school and get themselves registered for college and find their own financial aid, it does not happen. So just more adult responsibility towards children, whether it's their child or not, is what I see.
I remember in the book that Jeff mentioned, my eagerly reading for his class, was the author's conclusion at the end after some systemic recommendations about how we could make a difference for youth. His personal plea for anyone reading the book to find one youth to have an ongoing, steady, and reliable relationship with, and to make a difference in that one kid's life.
And that makes all the difference because there'll be a ripple effect.
Yeah.
That one will help another one. And just briefly, I'd just like to mention that it doesn't necessarily have to be one. Sometimes you can mentor several students at a time. When I worked as a principal in a very poor school, we did not have parents and others who were helping our 3rd and 4th graders with their studying for their test scores. So we decided that the school employees would do it. Everyone had several children to mentor. The janitors, the cafeteria staff, everybody, teachers' aides, teachers, everybody had children. And the 3 children that I had when they were in 3rd grade in 2003 probably, I still mentor them. They are seniors this year and going on to college. So the main thing we need is mentors who will take it for the long haul. Because if you're just there for a few months, you do more damage than good. So we need people who will commit to mentoring for a long time.
Just in case those 3 haven't told you this today, thank you.
And they do frequently tell me. They're really wonderful young people.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to invite you, in whatever order you feel inspired to do so, to comment on what you think our youth need, and some of this you've already touched on. If you could wave a wand and produce more of some resource, what would it look like?
I think you should answer that question first. You should tell us what you need.
I think we need more mentors and more guidance from you, from the congregation, and you guys can help with that. And we just need like mentors, people to guidance and really set the foot onto what we should do as youth, how we should react in the community.
If you had I know you had a confirmation mentor last year. If you and your
Yeah.
mentor were hanging out a week from now, what's something you'd like for the two of you to do or learn or experience together that you wish you knew? I'd like to have a chance with my mentor to...
I think reading scripture would be one thing that my mentor could do. Because I pray a lot at night, but I don't read a lot of scripture. And so I think that would be a chance for me and him to really sit down and really focus on God, take a little time in our schedule to focus on God. So.
Thank you, James.
Good.
Yeah.
Comment on that.
You don't want to comment on that? Yes. You are right. Yeah, I don't think I could say that any better. I really think and maybe it's worth saying one more time. I do think those adult relationships are crucial. Adult relationships outside of the parental relationship, which is crucial, but the need to create or to offer the possibility of that connection in another frame. And maybe if I add one more thing, I think and I don't know if you'd all agree or you want to clarify this somehow, but sometimes I think the sort of mentor to student relationship in some way is framed in a way that makes us think that there's some sort of the qualifications for that relationship require some capacity to teach something significant, that there has to be the transmission of some kind of important information or life lessons or wisdom. And I don't know about you, but I tend to think to myself, I don't have anything to teach someone, do I? I mean, what do I know? The commercial, the old Volkswagen commercial of the kid who drops the Oreo on the floor and the parent voicing over the commercial who says he realizes in that moment what he has to offer is to teach his child about the 5-second rule. And isn't there something more that I'm supposed to do in this moment as a parent? But in some ways I want to unload the responsibility of that, or the overbearing sense of what that relationship requires of us. I mean, I think there's something just simply about being willing to step up and show up and to be patient with the development of a relationship over time. And I mean, that's hard. I think it's hard, but you don't have to have it all together and have sort of a package of curriculum ready to go in order to step into what that relationship, I think, is meant to be.
Ditto. Totally agree. It just takes the caring that's shown for the children or the youth or the student. That's all they need. That you don't have to teach them anything significant. You don't have to take them anyplace special. Just being there and knowing that you care about them is all that's needed.
I don't know about you, but if I had to write down what I thought James would say, it would not have been his answer. Anybody else? So I think listening to what youth say, what do you want to do? What can we do together? Asking the question instead of coming in with an agenda. They'll teach us a lot. Thanks, James. All right, let's talk about hopes. And Susan, you can keep the microphone there. When you finish your year of mentoring with the students who go through Durham, what are your hopes and aspirations for them as they leave your program and move on?
I wish I could remember the exact quote, but I can't, so I'll paraphrase. Michelle Obama said something during a speech about when you go through the door of opportunity, it might have been door of something else, but I'm going to say opportunity. Anyway, when you have advantages and when you are helped or given an opportunity, don't just accept it and say, that's great, I'm going to go on with my life. Reach back and pull someone else through that door. And that's what I'm hoping the students will do. Finish high school, go on to some type of post-secondary education, and come back to the community and give back. And if not the Durham community itself, at least the community where they live. And I think that's happening already, because many times the siblings of the students in Durham or their friends, they drag them along to our activities. So if all they do is give a word of advice based on something they've heard or learned through Durham, to another student, I think that would all be worthwhile.
You mentioned this before. Did you say the program was in its 6th year?
6th year, yes.
Sixth.
We started June of 2007 with the first group, and we've had our first college graduate. This past May, a young lady graduated. She's working with the AmeriCorps now.
Oh, wonderful. She's pulling all sorts of people
Oh, yeah.
through that door.
She is. And we've got probably between 27 and 30 students in college now from the groups that we've had through Durham.
And I would imagine that your funders and you as director and your employees are interested in sort of long-term studies of
Yes, we
your
are.
outcomes.
In fact, we did with our 5th year, we did a 5-year report as far as how many students had graduated and gone on to college, and how many had improved their grade point average, how many had been promoted to the next grade each year, how many had improved attendance, and we had some really good results, and I have some of those 5-year reports tonight, if you'd like to have them.
Well, thank you. I know from my own experience in working with nonprofits that often the numbers seem small, and it's sometimes challenging when you're, chasing down dollars or whatever to keep your program going. When you're talking about 30 students a year over 6 years, it doesn't statistically look enormous, but those stories, those individual stories of the successes and the graduation and the working for AmeriCorps and that sort of thing,
Right.
those are
And
the ones
we get that question all the time, why don't we do more? And of course, the usual answer is with more funding, we could do more. If we doubled our budget, we could probably at least do 50% more students. But the thing is, with the Year of Opportunity, it's a very hands-on program. We don't just see them for a few hours and that's it. We work with them for the summer. We also work with them on Saturdays and Sundays and nights during the year. We go to the schools and meet with the teachers and the administrators. The parents call us if there are problems. We go to the homes. So we have to keep up. There are 2 of us working, so we have a very full life with our students, and they call us anytime they need anything. The young lady that I mentioned, when she was in school her sophomore year, she needed books and didn't have the money to pay for them, so she called us about her books, and we were able to find some donors to take care of that. So we convinced them that we are going to be there 24/7, and sometimes we almost are. And with larger numbers of students, that would not be possible.
Sure. You could have all the funding in the world, but unless you have the human support.
Exactly. And we could do maybe 100, 150 students, but we wouldn't have the time to really get to know them well and be there for their needs and help them along if we had that many. It's like a parent who has 12 children. You don't have time for all of them.
Parent who has 30 children, there's a frightening thought.
Yeah.
Jeff, how about taking a crack at that question? What are your hopes for the graduates of the Youth Academy and the MACP program?
Yeah. Well, we hope they'll graduate, first of all. We do hope so. Maybe no less than a revolution in the way the church thinks of and practices ministry with youth. Inasmuch as something I've said to Fred Eady a number of times is, what we're doing here is an argument. It's not just a program that we offer to youth. It is that, but it's a mission, I think, to the church. It's meant to be a witness, to try to say the church has to remember and listen carefully to the reality that inside of every church there are youth who are already present, already ready, already primed to listen carefully and to speak intelligently and to practice prayer and service and to engage the church and the world. And I mean, and honestly, James, you've seen that tonight already. So as opposed to a lot of youth ministry that we know exists out there as, Doritos and ski trip youth ministry, so to speak, the massive program and the smoke and the mirrors and the lights. In a way, we're trying to take that model and help the church move past that, and to take youth seriously. I think that's a part of what we're hoping to do. And I think DYA has always done that with the hope of the youth who come through and the adults, frankly, who are part of the staff, But now that we have a master's program, I think it's just a way for us to double down on that commitment and to hope that that transformation can be continued.
All of us in the MACP program whisper in the halls, admitting to each other that we take a ski trip. The shame of it.
It's not bad.
We don't eat Doritos while we're on the ski trip.
It's just that's just not all you do, right?
James, what do you hope for yourself, for your community, for your peers? What are your dreams about?
All right. Well, my hope for the future is that for myself and for the youth to continue to serve and get out in the community and really help. And I know that for me, for myself, and for some people, that's like the first thing that we don't want to do is to go out and serve, but we need to. We just need to get out, continue to do what we do. And like things like urban ministry and like other stuff that we do in youth. Just getting out and helping. So that's what we continue to do. That's my hope for the future.
Great. We'll see if we can help with that. What I'd like to do now is to take these three very patient and brave people off the dais and ask you all to engage with each other on a question that we had intended to ask them, but I think it would be interesting for you to do that. The question is, what might a local church like ours do to be good neighbors to youth based on what you've heard from the panel? Some of it we may already be doing, but what are some other ideas that you hear and opportunities to do that? There is a handout on your table. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, it's a very brief excerpt and summary of some research that's been done on religion and youth in the United States that may help inform your conversation, but there's not a quiz on it, so use it if it's helpful. And we'll invite you to talk for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and share what we talked about. All right, I'm going to ask the blue table to start. Do I need to take them
I'll use the wireless.
We're so high tech. We have a wireless.
Testing, and it works. All right. Who would like to share?
One good idea of how a local church can be a good neighbor to youth.
I think our biggest thing we said was to show up.
She said the biggest thing was to show up.
Where would you show up, Kim?
Well, presumably someplace where there are youth. I think, we didn't actually get here, but in my head, there's so much separation between youth, kids, and grown-ups. And it's when we pull those together that we get those kinds of mentoring relationships. And it doesn't have to be just the grown-ups mentoring the youth, it's the youth mentoring the kids at Vacation Bible School. It's whatever, any of those sort of organic, you were talking about the organic relationships.
Thank you. Green table.
Right, green table.
Okay, I guess this is me. What was the exact question?
One good idea for how a local church can be a good neighbor to youth.
Okay. So what I said was what you guys said, which is mentoring, discipleship. I'm a product of being discipled ever since I became a Christian, and I automatically discipled other people because of the impact that it had on my life. I guess it's been 12 years now that I've constantly been discipled ever since I became a Christian, and it's changed my life. And it is simply showing up. It's not that I had mentors who led me down some, I don't know, it was never anything fancy, but simply this person who I knew cared about me and looked me in the eyes. And so I was saying that I think that it would be awesome if everyone at our church just committed to hanging out with one person once a week or every other week. Every other week works. I meet with my mentor every other week right now. but yeah, that would be huge. Yeah, so that's what I said. Yeah, and I went to, I'll say this really quickly, as quickly as I can. We went to a conference this past weekend, and I went to a workshop at the conference that was on raising Indigenous leaders. And they interviewed or conducted research on 81 youth who are leaders in similar neighborhoods that they came from. And they asked them, what was it? Like, what was it that brought you to where you are? And every single one of them said mentors. Like, it's because of mentors that I made it out. It's because of mentors that I made it back. So, yeah, you guys are right on. And I think that, yeah, you know that.
Thank you, Caitlin. That means it's the orange table's turn. One good idea for how a church can be a good neighbor to youth.
Well, I just said that possibly a Stephen minister or someone like that could help with some of the skills that people need, like Christian assertiveness or listening skills with each other, or even helping people with grief, because we work with all those kinds of things. So
You make a really good point, Ann, and that is that many of us who consider ourselves adults are intimidated by youth. We feel like we don't know how to connect with them or what to ask, or we're afraid of what we'll hear. Did you know that, James?
No, no.
I thought I saw him smirking over there.
No, I know.
There's a mutual intimidation factor going on between adults and youth, and the idea of learning those skills or relearning them, I think is a great idea. I've been through the Stephen ministry training myself and have served as a Stephen minister, and the whole time I thought, we need Stephen ministry for youth. For reasons we won't get into, it's not set up to do that, but wouldn't it be exciting to have a youth Stephen ministry?
I just want to say, I remember when I was raising my third child, I said to him, Thomas, you don't know it, but every single grown-up has a little child inside, and you need to speak to them and tell them hello, just like we need to speak to you. Because I think we're all, we're like...
Yeah. Thank you so much for that insight. All right, now the floor is open, and yes, and Roger has a question.
You have the answer in the below.
I had a question about the Youth Academy, and I mentioned it here at our table, but they didn't think it was one of the good ideas, apparently. So, but I was wondering if there,
Too much work for my husband.
if there's been any thought on how to adapt the Youth Academy model so local churches can do their own Youth Academy. I mean, I know we could do it because we have Gare and Warren, and they're, but and Jeff, right? But I was assuming that if you were doing one at Duke, you would want to come out here too. But so how? Because I know in terms of sustainability and all those kinds of things, you're always thinking. And if 16 kids can come to you, I suppose it has something to do with training the way you're training youth leaders as well. But making that kind of intense, deep-end experience. I mean, maybe every weekend Sunday morning should be all of us in the deep waters of the baptismal font available. So.
Yeah. I'm going to be ginger. I don't want to yell in everybody's ear with this microphone. Is that okay? Just testing. 1, 2, 3. It's a great question. We think about that a lot. I mean, I think about that a lot because, I discovered that right away. DYA is a wonderful program, but once it's over at the end of June, 45 students go home, and that's it. And then we get ready for the next one. And I immediately began thinking, how is this? If this is a mission or it's a witness somehow to a way of thinking about youth ministry, yes, having a master's program is a huge piece of that, but what else can we do? So at one level, the simplest answer to that is, well, we published a book with curriculum in it, a book that tries to offer to youth ministers and churches some embodied examples of ways this can be lived out in a church context. That's a gesture. That's not really the full gesture, I think. But so there's a nice book called Holy Things for Youth Ministry,
Which he also made us read by.
But something you just said, Roger, I think really clicks, and that is that, we in some ways want everyone to swim in the deep end of the baptismal font. And what we do at DYA, which I failed to say, is we do spend time with faculty doing work in theology. We do spend time in the community doing works in service. But every night we worship at the Youth Academy, and every night in worship we have word and table. We have communion. And so that youth walk out of the Youth Academy having 10 to 12 services of worship with communion as a part of the practice. And for some of the youth who come from the more free church traditions and show up at DYA, that's more communion they've ever had in their entire lives. And so they go home with this newfound sense that it's no longer necessarily in the basement church youth ministry room where my home is in the church. It's in the sanctuary. It's at the table. It's reading scripture from the lectern. It's sharing in the worship of the church. And this is difficult because sometimes I say, what we need? We don't need youth just to come to the academy. We need senior pastors to come to the youth academy. And we need youth ministers to come to the youth academy. And so I have multiple layers of conversion on my mind. So we've planted one sort of contextualized non-Duke Youth Academy in another place called the Texas Youth Academy, and I was just mentioning at dinner to a colleague that we're having conversations with other annual conferences in the hope that maybe we can do the same thing in other places. Realizing it just won't look the same in every place. How can we contextualize it? What will have to be different? But some things that are always going to be true. We always want youth to realize it's that place in worship and in the full life of the church that they have this place. We should involve them. So if you have ideas how we should do that, I would love to hear them. But yeah, inevitably, I hope that students in our program can help to contextualize and embody these things that we do in places all over the world. I would love to see that.
Replication of good work is always an issue. Susan, was your program the replication of a similar program somewhere else, or has it been replicated in other communities?
Actually, it's based on a program out of Boston, Massachusetts, that's called the Summer of Opportunity. They did pretty much the same thing on a shorter basis. For the summer, the students had training and then internships during the summer. But when DCIA decided to do the program for youth, they decided it would be much more beneficial to have a year of opportunity rather than a summer of opportunity. And we have not branched out, but we've had lots of inquiries from other cities about starting a whatever city it is, especially from parents.
Other questions from the floor?
Susan, let me ask you a question. One of the things that you said you made a very powerful case for the importance of mentorship. But one of the things that was scary about it was when you said, look, that you're in this for the long haul. And that it's better to make a long-term commitment than just a couple of months. Would you implying that showing up for a short time could be in fact deleterious? Could you say more about that?
I would be happy to. And when I talked about the students that I mentor, I was in it for the long haul, a very long haul. But what we ask with Durham is for mentors to stick with the students until they're out of high school. So that's maybe at the most a 3-year commitment. And for some, it may only be 1 year. But if someone is really mentoring a student, they're going to continue the relationship usually beyond the required amount of time. Our mentors are trained in the behavior of high school students, first of all, and also we give lots of support as far as helping mentors know how to go about establishing a relationship with a student and what types of activities they may be able to engage them in. We offer support to mentors along the way as far as one-on-one or group meetings. We, of course, do the background checks and all that. But we try to make sure that someone isn't thrown in with a student and just left to flounder by themselves. because for most people, that would not be very reasonable to assume that they just know how to mentor a student. And as I mentioned, if an adult comes into a student's life and they stay maybe a couple of months or whatever, and then they wander off, then most students are going to feel something's wrong with me. That person just came along, they didn't like me, I must have done something wrong, and now they're gone. So we try to make sure that mentors are really committed to sticking with it before we match them with a student. And we don't require a long amount of time. It's about 4 hours a month that's required, although most mentors do a lot more than that. And we also offer lots of options, meeting face-to-face, of course, but also texting, because students live and breathe texting, telephone, lots of different opportunities for different types of interactions.
Susan, what's your contact information in case people would like to mentor? Or what's the email? Yeah. Besides just going to the office upstairs.
Yeah, just walk upstairs. We have a telephone, of course, upstairs. And I'm not going to ask you to write that down in the email address. What I will do, if anyone's interested in contacting us about mentoring, or if you know of someone who will offer an internship, or if you have knowledge that you'd like to share during next year's Summer Career Academy, I will provide either a business card or a brochure that has all the contact information on it. The email address, and we also have a website where you can take a look at some of the things that we're doing and what the components of the program are.
At dinner, I think you mentioned tutoring as well is a need.
Yes, I did. Thank you for reminding me. There's always a need for tutors. Many of the students that we serve are having problems with specific subjects in school. When we get them, many times they have a very low grade point average, and we help them bring that up. And of course, that means that they're going to need some help with some subjects probably. We are looking for tutors for all subjects, but particularly math and Spanish.
Could another student serve as a mentor?
Oh, absolutely.
Or as a tutor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Peer tutors are great. And we also have mentors that are sometimes college students. So we don't really have a lower age range as far as tutors and mentors.
Great. Thank you.
Well, our time is up, and to close us out, I'd like to ask, well, first of all, let's give a hand for our panelists and our facilitator, Gare. And John is just going to give a few words about mission here.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. And I'm John Legg. I'm the one of the co-chairs of the Missions Committee. I co-chair the Mission Committee with Katie Garman. Katie had to leave early because her kids go to bed early, so she asked me if I would share a couple of words with you. Wanted to mention a couple of things that are coming up that I wanted you to be aware of. First thing I want everyone to be aware of, thanks again to Roger for leading us in our very successful IHN week this week. We've just finished a week of hosting several families in IHN, and we appreciate his leadership in that area. Fuller Sasser mentioned yesterday during the worship service that IHN is getting ready to have their annual gala, and so if you are interested in supporting IHN in that way, please consider attending their annual gala, which is November the 3rd. Urban Ministries, we continue to have active involvement there. Our youth just served at Urban Ministries this past Sunday, served lunch at Urban Ministries, so we ask you to continue to think about them, and we will have an opportunity soon to be supporting them through food and clothing donations, so keep an ear out for that. The next dinner and discussion, the date is yet to be set. It will be a dinner and discussion to talk about aging. That is a session that we had to postpone recently because one of our speakers went into the hospital. So we're looking forward to having him back with us, so we'll get that scheduled soon. Keep an eye out for that. Reynolds asked me to share with you that we are hopeful about setting up a screening for a documentary soon called The Line, and it is a documentary made by several national advocacy groups on poverty. So keep an eye out. We're looking forward to that, so keep an eye out for that opportunity. There's a small group in our congregation that recently engaged with a refugee family that relocated from Africa. The family arrived this past Tuesday. I had the opportunity last night to hear a story about that arrival on Tuesday at the airport and their settlement. So look forward to hearing about that. That's an engagement that we've started with Church World Service, which is located right down the street from us. And we'll look forward to hearing more stories about how that relationship develops. And then lastly, we are engaged with the West End Community Garden. Folks will be participating with that program and joining folks in our community at the West End Community Garden on the Saturdays in October, which will be 9 to 12 on each Saturday in the month of October. Then on October the 27th, there'll be a potluck lunch, so you'll be welcomed and encouraged to participate in that. And remind me who our contact person is for the community garden?
Shelley Rudy. So she's in our congregation, skpiner@gmail.com.
Thank you. So if you're interested in that, please contact Shelley. And I think that's all that I have. And do I need to?
Close us out.
Okay, I'm not trained in this, but if you'll join me in prayer, it will be brief. Thank you for bringing us together, God, and helping us to think about an important subject for us, to think about something important, and to focus on lives that can be molded and can be shaped, but also have such tremendous delight and influence in our lives. So thank you for helping us to focus on something other than ourselves tonight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.